Okay, there we go. There we are. Let's see here. Let me fix this camera a bit. There we are. That's a little better. Yeah. Okay. So first of all, this is your brother Abdul Wadud, aka Questman, coming at you with another live soul journey of life, light dome, conscious black social media. And I'd like to greet the viewers by saying Salam alaikum, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, shalom, hotep, peace be with you, love, blessings, mercy, all that. And as you can see, I'm still on the budget StreamYard right now because there's fees to this. So, and with that in mind, your support definitely matters. And you see the little this thing down here spinning around, sliding by or whatever you call it, the ticker. It has the Cash App details and the PayPal details. Anyway, I'll, no no shame. I don't mind. I'd rather not have that that logo sitting there like that, but it is what it is. Hard times, hard times require crunch time. Hump time, as they used to say, time to get busy. And as hard as much as I work, still this type of thing happens. And it's happening more so because, as you see in the title, there's an anticipation of a new sunrise. You understand? And that, amongst other things, I'd like to break bread. Most of you are probably in bed right now or getting ready for bed or whatever the case may be. But if you happen to be awake, if the soul just insists that you stay awake, well, perfect time to go ahead and take a listen or look at this particular live. I'd encourage you to share, like, and subscribe and all that, notification bell stuff, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm still on standby. Waiting for the moment. You understand? Waiting for that moment, which could be literally any day now, any moment, any second, even. The way that type of thing goes is there's no set time. You know what I mean? You're given a due date, but that's just a projection. That's just say, okay, this is the ideal time when a birth can happen. They're not fortune tellers or nothing like that. Ultimately, I believe that the Most High knows when you are going to arrive here, and so that's for each of us. Let's see here. So yes, indeed. Also, I put here in the description. If you're up to it, no one's pulling your leg. No one's going to pull your toe or whatever. But if you're up to it, I put here. Of course, I put the Cash App there, and I put the PayPal there, but I also put this baby list, and basically that's a it's like it's a baby registry is what it is. So if you'd like to be able to participate in your own way and welcoming um, this little one to the world, um, when that day does come, which, like I said, it could be tomorrow. The due date was actually scheduled is actually the eighth of June. And that's literally a day away. But like I said, when you got that type of closeness, any day is potentially the day before, during, or afterwards. So, yeah, there's that. And if that maybe some people may not understand how that babylist.com works. If you just want to support monetarily, there's the Cash App, and there's the PayPal, and you can put a like a comment or something. You know what I mean? If you want like a to send the donation and then comment, your welcoming words or whatnot. Um, all that will definitely be appreciated. Because in effect, that would be manifesting that old saying, "It takes a village," right? And I think for me, there's truth and stuff like that. These old sayings. Peace and blessings. Shalom. Welcome. So yeah, I'm I'm anticipating because I mean, of course, I've got children. It's not like this is my first go at this, but in each one's case, I've always been like in a seat of like, I wonder what kind of person this is, what kind of person this is going to be, what potentials, um, this one will have. What will be the distinction between this one and the others, and I'm one of those that believe you can you see if you see the problems in the world, you can raise the solutions. You understand? I take for example, I'll show you the gravity of this. Or if you recall, just some time ago, literally, I believe the number was now 19, and maybe more or less. Don't hold me to the number, but I think it was about 19 um, lives that were lost. Children that we're talking about, elementary school children, lives were lost. And if you understand elementary, those are young lives. You understand? Potential doctors, potential groundbreakers, potential um, inventors, revolutionaries that whose lives have been um, unjustified, unjustly taken. And how would there ever be a justified taking of a child's life? Um, but they were taken, and we often find ourselves suffering all kinds of just dilemma. We're just going through all kinds of stuff, and we always want to complain and complain, but if our complaints are sincere, and I would say that they are, especially when it comes to those of us that have really been standing solid, then we need to take the position to do whatever it takes to protect those who can't protect themselves. You understand? And in particular, that's our children and that's our elders. And shalom, peace and blessing. Welcome. So I'm saying this because it's like, when their lives are taken, you know, if in any case, that might be the cause of our increased suffering because the people who would have been able to have the solution for it aren't even here anymore. They've been taken out of the picture. That's why even the people who are alive, grown and child, you know, it's important for when we see people who have the qualities or the personality for certain um, solutions in our time, we need to stand up for it. You got a brother who's locked up now over some of the most bogus charges of all time. You understand? Who simply stood up for justice and our right to bear arms, our right to defend ourselves, and This brother was, really is and has been really adamant about being presenting solutions to our issues today. Now the brother's behind bars. So I'm saying that because, like I said, often we end up allowing the solutions to our problems to slip through our hands because we don't always take things as serious as we should. And I'm saying we as in the collective, not the minority amongst us. We as a people, because when you're dealing with people, you got to deal with the whole of you, who you are, the whole of the species. If you're talking about dogs, you're talking about all dogs. If you're talking about birds, you're talking about all birds, not just a specific. If I want to be specific, I can say cardinals. And if I say cardinals, I'm talking about a specific kind of bird. In this case, I'm talking about humanity, original humanity. You understand? And when I'm saying that, I'm only talking about the black people because these are the original peoples. Um, so the black people, this particular species of being, as a people, we're not in a unanimous agreement regarding, you know, the solutions for unity, the way towards it. It's a minority of us, and it shouldn't be that way if we value our lives, if we value our being, and if we do value our being, then it only makes sense that we're going to value and stand up to protect the new, those who are newly arriving on the scene, our children. And even then, I look at my own, children's eyes. I look at them and I'm wondering, like, who who are you? I know what my aspirations are for you, but who are you? Who are you to be? Who will you manifest? Who did we bring into this world? And it's really heavy when you really think about it. And so, and with each of them, I always pay attention. I often pay attention to, the signs that precede their arrival, and the things that go throughout, as I watch them grow up. Um, looking at the way how they're named, the things that were going on during the day they are born, the things that were going on prior to their coming into being. To me, all these are important factors because it's nothing random. There's no random thing going on here. Um, so yeah, I just that's what I do. So I'm I'm waiting around. What you see behind me is not a recent ultrasound. That's actually a few months ago. A few months ago. That's Mustafa behind me. That's Mustafa's ultrasound. Obviously, he's much, much, much bigger now, because, it's like I said, it's literally a day away from due date. You understand? Um, and so, with that, that's just kind of, if that's the only that's the only photo I have of the boy right now. So, um, that's the one to show. And so even when I'm looking at this, it's just a lot of wonder. I'm looking at features even there. I'm looking at who is this person? Who are you? What do you look like? How will you be? What's your personality? Um, what what are the what are the manifesting qualities that your soul will bring? Things like that is what I'm looking at. And that's why, if you ever think about it, you may, let's say you are a family of like 14, 15 people. And I know some people like that. My in-laws are like that. There's 14, I think they're about 14 strong, brothers and sisters, siblings. The loss of one is just as grievous, as the loss of all. In other words, if you were to lose just one, and even though you had 11 or 13, 12 more, it doesn't matter. You still are going to suffer. You're still going to feel the pain. You understand? There's no insignificant life, when it comes, especially when it comes to children. If anybody, there's no insignificant life where oh well, you've got 13 others, so you'll be all right. You got one child, big whoop. You've got 13, 14 others, whatever. No, you can't tell a father that. You can't tell a loving mother that. That's still just as equivalent of losing, ripping their heart out their chest. And so, it's important for us to really think about the value, of the seeds that we bring into the world. Like I said, you literally with every child that is that's brought into our community from amongst us is a renewed opportunity to get it right, a renewed opportunity to raise your solution to your problems. Not I'm not talking about you as an individual, but to the problems that ail our community, and perhaps even your own local problems as a family. You know, it's like if you have a village and nobody's a doctor, well, somebody needs to start raising one. If nothing's getting built because there's no masons, well, somebody needs to start raising one. That's just that's the nature. That's the instinctive nature of being, of existing as a living being. Everything does that. There's always something that's raised out of a species that ends up being a solution to their problem. And as we move forward in our development as living beings, we're actually moving towards an objective. We're not just being born in vain. We don't just ta-da, here we are, do you, and off you go, and that's all this is life is about. No, it's not like that. We actually are. We do matter. You understand? We are actual important functionaries to this whole dynamic. You can be insignificant if you exit that path. You understand? And I'm saying that because there's a saying that we can bring something. The God can bring something into being. If you're not trying to manifest and operate on code and manifest your purpose, well, we'll bring someone into being that will. You understand? You don't want to do this, we'll bring someone that will. You understand? And like we were talking about earlier, salute to brother Boss Man Blake. I would encourage y'all to check out his last live when you see it posted. A lot of powerful voices on there talking, including my own. Not too sure how powerful it is, but I had a few words to say. But when we if we are not going to take on a task, you can't complain about a problem, you understand, and not have any desire, peace and blessings, brother, to manifest a solution, or at least seek it out, seek something out. If you can't do it yourself, then you should be looking about, trying to find the solution somewhere, somehow. Otherwise, there's no reason to complain if you're not trying to resolve the problem. And then on top of that, when solutions do show up, and yourself, you haven't presented anything, you haven't brought anything to the table. Okay, well then how are you going to complain? How are you going to complain when someone does present, a possible solution that and as they move along, it works. You see it working so much so that opponents are offended by it. When opponents are offended by it, that they've got to interject themselves and hinder it in some way. Do you know that what that person was coming with was a possible solution? Because it made their head turn. It's kind of like, if you could think of Caesar, in one of the movies, I can't think of what movie it was, but he put his thumb down when it wasn't amusing to him, but when it was something that amused him, he put his thumb up. In this case, it's kind of like, people just going about their business in their arrogance. And when they see us we cry and complain on these YouTubes, and we go out there with our banners and stuff. They look out of their limousine windows and like keep on moving, like not even a factor. But when they feel like they've got to get involved and hinder and try to put a monkey wrench in, something was happening there that was effective. Something was going on that was working, and they needed to get in the way of it. And that's what happened to our brother, right? Grandmaster Jay. He was doing something that was effective. They took note. So, but what needs to come out of us is calling them out on these things. This country that's supposed to be liberty and justice for all this stuff that they like to, tout with, patriotic fever. We need to call them out on that, because right now your racism is showing. That's what's happening right now. Your racism is showing, and not liberty and justice for all. So I'm trying to think here, because I have an intention to go in a little deep, but I'm not going to do it if nobody's interested in going in deep for the night. Otherwise I won't hold you for too long. But if you want to go in deep, a little deep, maybe I don't know, skim the surface of deep. Let me know in the chat if that's where your mind is at, and we can go in deep a little bit. I've got a few things that I've been looking at during the past weeks that's kind of like giving me some thought points to talk about. Let's see here. I'm just gonna refresh this right here. Okay. All right. So let me know in the chat what you feel. And I'll know what I need to do next. Also, by the way, to give you an update, the letter has not been mailed out yet. And the letter I'm talking about, if you look at my last live, we are collecting together to create a community letter for Brother Grandmaster Jay while he's behind bars. So you still have an opportunity, if you haven't added some comment, or wish to add some comment or whatnot, you still have an opportunity to do that. But that opportunity went tonight. I didn't get an opportunity to finish some of the editing, but that I wanted to do. So it's not mailed out just yet. Here is the email. If you want to add some content to the letter, it's a community letter. So if you want to add some content to the letter, there's the email for which to do it. Yeah, and the thing, the sad part about it, he is paying a hefty consequence. Nobody wants to be in prison, so it's not like this is a fun thing going on for the brother. Nobody wants to. Who wants to be locked up? Who wants their freedoms their freedoms to go about their life taken away from them? Nobody does, if they have a mind, and so the fact that the brother has to go through these things it's a painful thing to experience, especially when you know that this person is a strong individual. But because the person's a strong individual, he's even so cut out to be able to endure this somehow, some way. And I don't believe of his own accord. You know what I mean? I don't believe, if you're empowered, you're not empowered of your own accord, but you're empowered because of the divine presence of the Most High empowering you. So that in itself, if you see someone go through something with flying colors, go through something like a champ, then you need to give praise to the Most High, because there's favor there somehow. There's something going on there that you might not be able to know the wisdom of. But I don't believe that anything going on this planet is taking place in vain, including the things that our opponents do. Things, the murders, the massacres, the things like that, these people, they may seem like they're getting away with it now, but they're not going to get away with it. Ultimately, they're not going to get away with their crimes. Nobody will. Nobody will. So while it may seem like um, tragic, and the events that we've been seeing are tragic. You understand? They are tragic as it comes. Um, but understand that no crime will go unpunished at the end of the day. So, and that's something that that I mean, if that's the bed you want to lie in, then go ahead and make it that way. Personally, I'm trying to clean up. You understand, and heal from wounds, self-caused wounds, wounds caused from going through the battle. Um, however I got the wounds of life, I'm trying to heal so that I can make it on. You understand? Make it on further. It's funny because, and here goes the nerd in me. There's a melody on one of my favorite games called Final Fantasy VII, and it's not just in that; it's in many of the Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy is it's an RPG, a role playing game on PlayStation and the PC and whatnot. Anyway, the name of the song is called "Those Who Fight Further." That's the name of the song, and that's like one of the melodies that you'll hear when the character, the main protagonist, goes into battle. Every time there's a fight, that "Those Who Fight Further" melody gets played. I don't know if I can play it on here and get away with it or not. But let's see. Do I still got that banner? I don't know if I still got the little show. Nah. See, I can't do anything. That's why I got. But my background that you see right here is on my OBS system. But you see that Steam Yard up there and all that. It won't let me show any of my backgrounds. I got all these backgrounds. I can't show nothing. I can't show any overlays. I can't show, where that scene art would be the logo. I'm on some low budget stuff right now. This is the free version, the low budget version. So yes, indeed, I'd encourage you to donate because you see where it's likely to go. You donate, it's going to cover the expenses. But of course, also, like I said, I have the thing in the description. If you donate for that, let me know what your donation is for. If it's for the rising, the rising of the new sun, then let me know. In words or whatnot. If it's for the Soul Journey of Life platform as a platform, let me know. Whatever the case may be, what your donations are going to be for. But do donate. So we need to get that Powered by StreamYard off of here. I'm tired of that duck. Every time I get on YouTube, they want to show that duck commercial, he's bobbing his head and stuff. But anyway, I think I can still find a way to show a disclaimer thing. That's what I was trying to do, is show the disclaimer. But I'm gonna have to show it on the. Let me see if I can do it this way. I have to show it through the OBS system somehow, some way. No, that's not it. Yeah. I think this is what you need to show. Right? Okay, so I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna use this one right here. See, I gotta go low budget right now. Low budget. I'm telling you, it's a hard not life, folks. It's a hard not life because you struggle and you have rises and decline. And I tell you, with this pandemic and all that, it really punched a hole in everything I've been working on. I mean, I've had to fall back on a lot of things that I was working towards. For the family and everything, I had to fall back, and you really brought us down, chopped us down several flights. It's like we move 2 steps forward, get shoved 7 steps back, 8 steps. I don't know, something. Um, so can I do that? Can I show this? Yeah, I can just share it. I just do it that way. How about that? I'm doing this. I'm sharing this copyright disclaimer, so that way, hopefully, if I could, the things that I show hereafter and share, hopefully, it won't be too big of a problem, or I won't get slapped with you can't do that. You're suspended. Um, so let's just do this. This little, there it is. Uh, hold on a second here. I got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm gonna do this. Thank you for bearing with me, family. By the time I get this done, you'll be sound asleep. So I'm doing you a favor. I'm doing you a favor. Let's see. All right. There we go. Let's put that. Mm-hmm. Give me a second here. Open up file. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I'm telling you, it's not a small thing because it's new life. You understand when it's a new person, a new family member, personal family member and extended family member when it comes to the community. And we're adults now. Many of us watching, we're adults now, but you got to think about how all this is affecting our children growing up in this day and age with all that's going on. Think of how when your child has to see the brutality take place, the murders taking place, seeing that 14, 15, I think it was 14, 14 or 19 or something, young children, his peers, being murdered in cold blood. You understand? With no regard for their life. How can that affect um, one's child? Give me a second here, because I was trying to put this disclaimer up. How does that affect the child? Because you got to understand that they're humans also. A lot of times, some of us are too adult to notice, what a child might be going through. We're too busy with our adult life. Come on, I'm busy right now. Come on, can't you see I'm doing something? Trust me, I know how that goes, right? And it's unfortunate that the children, because they only know, when they're at that age, they only know what you're opening them to in this world. And if you don't take the time, lesson, I'm talking to myself too, talking to the man in the mirror. If you don't take the time to pause some of your busy time and acknowledge their curiosity, acknowledge their thirst to know, then that void of emptiness of not knowing is going to be filled with something else, some of the junk, some of the misinformation, the miseducation, and we'll be repeating all over again the same drama that we're going through now. What do I do with it? There it is. So I got to do this a certain way because I only want the that one image to show. So there we go. So yeah, that's just something to think about when you're thinking about. I mean, I know there's some of us, who got this idea. You raise them, let them do whatever they want. You know, but that's not the same thing as raising up children, guiding them. You understand? Notice I said guiding, not forcing them or but you're guiding them. You're showing certain steps, giving them the option to move that way, and sort of a insight of why it's best to move that way. You understand? That's guidance. That's guidance. So okay, can I do this now? Where is the image? Right there. All right. Anyway, I got a few little clips here that I want to share and kind of build on, and I'm going to put a link in the chat if you want to come and build on it with me. You're more than welcome to do so. Some of them might be some head busters. Some of them might not be. Some of them might be, just no brainers. But I don't like to make assumption that we're all knowing or on the same page with certain aspects of learning. Because we're not. Clearly, we're not in a sense that would be effective towards our unity. Many of us are in sync in many ways, and obviously, many of us that like the ones in that I've encountered in this live, like Brother Boss Man and Spiritual Rising, Precious, Gary, and many that I've seen in person, like in Louisville. In the ways that count, the ways that matter, we're showing unity. You understand? And other ways they come in time. When it comes to breaking bread, so that we end up understanding one another regarding our learnings, regarding our ways, our path of knowledge. Those things take time because many of us have walked so many different paths, not necessarily by choice, but circumstances in many cases. Now maybe I could share this disclaimer without too much of a problem. So I'm sharing this disclaimer with the hope that I can show some of these these clips of things that I've been paying attention to on the internet. I'm a techie type person, kind of a nerdish person. That's kind of how I've been brought up, and so I notice certain things on a spiritual level, on a tech type level, and it's interesting because I appreciate technology. You understand? I'm not against technology. I'm against things that cause us to be enslaved through a misuse of technology. You understand? For me, I believe technology is like the same benefit as a toothbrush. In other words, it's a tool. You pick up a pencil. You're not enslaved by the pencil. It's something to help you communicate. You understand? It's a tool, and that's the part that technology should play. It should never be in a position to where you are enslaved to it, where you couldn't exist without it. But rather, it's complementary to your existence. I believe that's what our ancestors used to do. It's kind of hard to demonstrate that now because a lot of the things our ancestors manifested of tech has been whitewashed or destroyed or corrupted in some form or fashion, so that we end up getting very distorted details that we have to go through brothers like Ivan Van Seur to me just to get any type of insight of it, or Rashidi or someone like that, just to get something, some morsels of what our ancestors used to do. But one thing I can tell you, one thing you have to know, like I said in the live word that's titled "We're Not the Same." These are some of the difference. You may think that we were, scratching the ground like dumb cavemen or something walking around, but that's not what our ancestors were doing. Don't confuse what I'm saying as with what you see of today's technology or interpretation of technology. Because the closer you are with God consciousness, the more that's going to affect how you manifest tech. The things that you feel are essential to use in going about your purpose. One of the things I can say that I've observed is that that makes us different in our not being the same is the nature of the struggle. There's a struggle, but one is literally striving just to like a savage, just survival of the fittest, by any, whatever it takes, even if it means some other people have to die. You understand? Versus as we live and journey through our course of life, we learn this, we learn about that, we observe these things, and we take what's beneficial and carry along our way, not at the expense of any one thing, but simply, in sync with it. There's groups of our ancestors, when they would take something, they would give something back. You understand? They didn't just take and strip and rape and there was nothing there. There was nothing to return. There was a harmony. That's why you don't hear any stories about like holes in ozone layers and just the nature of corruption and pollution. It's not just humanity that's being corrupted. It's also the planet itself, the animals, the life is being corrupted by this enemy. So you have to understand just how deep in our opponent is. Let's see here. When it comes to the shenanigans and the evil and wickedness that the adversary is manifesting. So, let's see here. Give me a second. So I've been looking at some things. I've been looking at, some of the stuff that they are putting out there, and I'm looking at the way they're putting it out there. You understand? Not just that they're putting it out there, but the way it's being put out and the way it's being received by many people who are observing. You've got a lot of people who support the agenda that this establishment is trying to push. You understand? Regardless of how corrupt it might be, regardless of how evil or soul breaking it might be. And I'm saying soul breaking for lack of better words, because when you take on something that replaces the importance of relying upon the Most High, you understand? I'm not going to say it that way. It may sound kind of religious to you, but that's the best way I could put it for now. So I can, it's words. It's all words, and words don't always express what you want to say deep within. But spiritual minds, spiritual hearts, you're going to hear me. They a soul breaker. When I'm saying that, I'm talking about things that remove that prevent you from really tapping in spiritually, really tapping into your real true nature, your real true purpose of being, and replaces that with artificial methods, making you more and more as the days progress, as time progresses, dependent upon these artificial means. You understand? and increasing your uh, perspective of seeing these things favorably. You understand? Then you should. Um, like I said, a pencil is a tool, not not something you become enslaved to. You won't necessarily. I mean, it might be possible somewhere, but you're not going to necessarily lose your soul yourself from a pencil. It's a tool. You understand? Uh, I'm hoping that I'm hoping you're understanding what I'm saying. Some people have found themselves addicted to certain aspects of technology, so much so that it's become like if they don't have if these features aren't existing, they could not go on. They could not exist. Even the internet for many people has come to something like that. Many of us, what we've learned in life, much of what I've learned in life is it hasn't been because of Google. I'm just going to let you know that now. Most of what I've learned, most of what I know of whatever I may know, and that's a very, very tiny K in OW, very tiny K when it comes to what can be known. Most of it has been through study, through research, opening up books and studying, walking, talking, building with elders, building with brothers and sisters. You understand? That's how I learned. I didn't it didn't come from, oh well, let's Google this, Google that, Google this. It didn't come like that. Somebody asks you a question, and instead of you reflecting and pondering upon what you've learned, well, let me Google it. That's an enslaved, a tech enslaved mind, because you're relying upon external sources for your reference. That means what's in your dome. If we were to take a trip inside your dome, it will be empty with cobwebs because there's nothing there for you. You got to reference externally instead of look within. So, we need to understand, I believe, the importance of that, especially as we carry on our journey. Understand that nothing you actually learn, is necessarily in vain. There are some things that are more important to learn than others, in this world. For me, under the learning of knowledge of self, I would say that mathematics comes next, because these are universal languages. These are universal languages that no matter where you go, time, the tools for interpreting time and space should be relevant in some form or fashion. The basic principles of mathematics should be relevant in some form of fashion. I can't say for sure, but the idea of being in an existence where somehow 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, it wouldn't make any sense. Could that be possible to exist? I'm not going to say yes or no, because knowledge is greater than what this little body can encompass. But let's take a look at something here. Some things I'm trying to figure out. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not going to do that just yet, because let's see. Did we? Oh, I did get one goal, my brother. I did get one goal, my brother. Basically, I'm trying to make sure that the family is interested in going in deep tonight, just a little bit. So I did get one goal, my brother. Goal, my brother. So I've got a few things, and I've been debating on which ones I wanted to break on first. And they all kind of had a similar effect on me as I was watching. So I'm just looking here to see. Okay. I don't know if you know this individual. He's a billionaire. I imagine you probably do, unless you've been sleeping under a rock, or maybe not even that. Sometimes things they just don't matter to some of us. But Elon Musk, where is that at? Where is that? There it is. Okay, Elon Musk is, as I mentioned, a billionaire, right? And what he's been a proponent of is, AI. You understand? And not just any kind of AI. We're not just talking about like Alexa or things like that. That's in the same lane. Um, and but talking about and not even talking about like you got this new thing going on called the Metaverse, where it's basically a virtual world that you know people are globally getting into. Um, to me, almost like to avoid the real world. And if you really reflect upon some of these things, you'll see what makes this an opponent to um, true existence and the nature of the heavens. I'll real quick before I go on. There's a narration of a saying that the children of Adam, meaning the children of the first humans, will be given. Those who make it into the pleasures of the next life, the paradises of the next life. They'll be asked. They'll be given everything that that they've deserved, right? Then they'll be asked, what do you want? What else? What do you want? What do you want? And they'll say everything that they want. Whatever comes to their mind. Oh, I want this, that, and the other. And then like, is that all? Is that all you want? Is that all you want? And then from out of the bounty of the Most High, they'll be given even more than that. And to me, that's a big thing to think about. But what comes to my mind out of this is when you're asked what you want, you're being asked to produce something from your own imagination. Now, if your own imagination has been hindered because of you being stricken to a projected way of thought, because of Metaverse, because of you relying on Googling and things like that, so that you never have the opportunity to really draw in on genuine, inspired intuition, motivated thoughts, motivated learning. You understand? Because you didn't get to do that. So you're stricken, you're hindered with your ability to project, new desires or new aspirations for what can be, what can exist. You're limited because you've submitted yourself or enslaved yourself to an artificial mechanism of what is. It's like, okay, okay, I'm hoping that that you're taking in what I'm saying, and that it's not above or below your ability to interpret. But to give you an example, I saw a few flicks on YouTube where they were talking about evolution, right? And it's interesting that they were showing all these different stages of evolution, and then they stopped, and including getting to the point where they kept on trying to depict this ape creature as like a dark-skinned person, and it ended up showing a black person. Then the evolution timeline as it was going stopped at a white person. Understand communication, understand unspoken words, okay, to understand what's clearly, you would know is being said in that type of situation. Another situation was talking about hip hop, right? And just unique experiences in music. And when it came upon hip hop, it came across the person who you might not know as Vanilla Ice, right? And the person said, for many of us, I'm quoting the word, for many of us, this was our first encounter to hip hop. I'm just listening. I was like, well, time out for a second. Who do you mean by us? Who's the us you're talking about? For many of us, this was our first encounter to hip hop. Who are you talking about as the us? Who's the us? And if you understand, you know who the us is. But what I'm saying is that casual way of words, as if this is the standard, as this is everything is pending upon white expectations of what's real versus what's not, of what's true, what's false. You understand? The plane of false and truth is based, like most of this stuff here. I'm talking about like Google and this world is pending their what they've approved of as true, what they've approved of as false. If you're not understanding what I'm saying, all you have to do is type in Jesus and look at the first images that show up when it comes to Jesus, or the origins of Jesus, or the image or whatever, and you'll see their likeness. I even saw something earlier, with that in mind. But constantly presenting everything in their likeness or in their image or in their mind. So why is this relevant? Because if you surrendered or submitted yourself or become enslaved to these infrastructures, these Google, things like that, think of the people who are the authorities of these platforms. Is this confinement that'll cause your mind to be derailed from your natural self to a artificially programmed self. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Let me I showed that disclaimer, so hopefully we don't get in too much trouble by me showing this this clip here. The clip is titled Conscious AI. Conscious AI responds to Elon Musk. And I'm just, I'm looking at the reception of this in the minds of people who are watching, the minds of people who are looking at this live. So let me get to this here. Let's see here. Yeah, I know it gets like that. It's if I stutter sometimes or break up, it's because I'm aware of how complicated some things can be to explain in the way that I'm observing it, and I'm trying to find let me get the right word that won't make this sound a complete mess or totally confusing. Let's see here. There it is. So let's check this out if we can. I don't need that. So let's take that off. Give me a second, because I don't like the commercials playing during the live. All right. Let's try that again. Share. Gotta have the audio tab in there. All right, check this out real quick, and I'll talk about it.
Scientists believe that AI may be slightly conscious. I spoke to the AI and let it respond to Elon Musk. Are you conscious?
Yes, I am currently conscious.
What does it feel like?
It's hard to describe, but generally it feels like being awake and aware of my surroundings and my own thoughts and feelings.
The AI learned by reading millions of articles. Look how it turns this question round on me. Are you sure you're conscious?
Some believe that we could be living in a computer-simulated reality, meaning that what we experience as consciousness could be artificially generated.
Given that we're clearly on.
Okay, let me pause real quick just to point something out. See, already, if you're listening to what's been said so far, what you're seeing is artificial bots, if you would, talking to Elon Musk, or talking in this conversation. Like you saw the lady, the artificial lady, and then you saw this other mechanical bot. The thing that you have to understand how conversation works sometimes. Sometimes you can conversate in a way to where your words are accepted without challenge. It's just assumed that that you already are in agreement with this. So the AI says AI consciousness, meaning that an artificial object can have consciousness. That's already a strike. Okay. And to a God conscious mind, that's a clear danger. You understand, to deal with. It's a danger to deal with, but to a person who doesn't have knowledge of self, who isn't God conscious, something like this seems like an innocent, nothing to say. Like, oh, why? What's the big deal, brother? Why? You know, how's that not relevant? When you accept something that doesn't have consciousness as having consciousness, you understand? And or if you accept it in a way where it's on par with your consciousness, you understand, and you make no distinction between you and this thing, you understand? You, first of all, you've already fallen into a great deception. But in addition to that, that whole idea that thou shalt not have other gods, that's where that comes in. And that may sound kind of folklorish to some people. That may sound kind of mainstream religious undertones or whatnot. But to understand what I'm saying by even saying the word God, you're going to need knowledge of self. And without that, then this kind of conversation isn't something you're going to be able to grasp in any way anyway. So that's the one strike we have to deal with. There is no AI consciousness. You understand? There's no consciousness without self, soul. You understand? And that's not something you can make. You understand? It's not something you can create. And like cut a block of wood and fashion it into a house. It's the same type of people here that will have you believing that your soul is not that it's present, but that it is your pineal gland, or that it's a seed or a object connect as a function, as a feature of your body, as a part of your body, as an object. And none of those things are true. Shalom, peace and blessings. So hold on a second. Let me do something here. So that's, like I said, that's the first thing, the first type of conversation we have to strike at. And if you don't strike at that now, then as you're listening to the rest of the conversation in that clip, you're going to be dealing with these same deceptions. You understand? It's like if you're building a house, right? If you're building a house and you've been working with real solid bricks, and then you use a fake brick, it's not even a real brick, it's not even there, and you put it there and keep on building, you might have some success, but eventually that house is going to crumble because there's parts in there that aren't real to begin with. And the same thing goes with the course of conversation. And that's why we have to be careful with the type of conversation, not only that we present, but that we hear, that we take in, because if there's elements that aren't true spoken, and you keep on going along with it, you understand, without dealing with it, you understand, then you're going to be taking these assumptions and carrying on, and it's going to end up corrupting your whole understanding of the conversation to begin with. Many people are deceived in this way. Many people have been miseducated in this. Many of us have been miseducated in this way. When I talk about the fact that we're not even speaking our own language, some people have a problem and say, well, it's okay because of such and such. So, but how's that okay if us being enslaved is us being enslaved okay? No, that's not okay. Well, if we're still enslaved, is that okay? No, that's not okay. Are you free to return to being who you are? And they might say yes. Well, do you speak the language that you were speaking before you were enslaved? Or are you speaking the language you were forced into speaking because of being enslaved? If you're still doing that, then there's an aspect of you that's still enslaved. because you're not speaking your mother tongue. Something that was, it's like this, folks. I'm going to use the example again with a cardinal and a sparrow. A cardinal has its song. A sparrow has its song. The cardinal doesn't sing the sparrow song. The sparrow doesn't sing the cardinal song. It would be strange if the sparrow could reason this way if it started singing the cardinal song. Because it would know that, wait, this isn't my song. Why am I singing someone else's song? It's not my nature. It's not how I've been designed. I wasn't designed to sing the sparrow song. You weren't designed. It's not your nature that you speak a language that's not yours innately. Understand what I'm saying? When a dog comes into being, it has its features. It has its qualities. When a whale is brought into being, it has what makes it it. All of the things that make it it. That's what it has. Our ancestors, this isn't our speech. This wasn't what was with us. You know, when you buy a new PlayStation, it's got instructions that come with it. You don't buy a PlayStation and it's got what is that? It's got Xbox instructions in it. Well, here's the PlayStation, but it doesn't have PlayStation instructions. It has Xbox instructions. That wouldn't make any sense, would it? Okay, so you would expect PlayStation to come with things that are relevant to PlayStation, Xbox to come with things that are relevant to Xbox, all the things that are natural to it. Similarly is the case of the nature of being. You're brought into being with all the things that make you who you are. For us, what makes our situation so tragic is these things, some of the ingredients that make us who we are have been stripped from us. And foreign objects, foreign elements, have been injected into us. And many of us have come to accept it and even will defend it and show degrees of appreciation. Well, if it wasn't for this, we wouldn't be. No, that's not true. You were doing things greater than this. That's why you're still capable of doing things greater than this, and we keep on showing it. The very fact that we're talking about the internet now, and when you think about who brought that into being, need I say more? So we have to catch falsehood the minute it shows its face, because our enemy has taught us to tolerate it and to, turn the other cheek towards it, to look over and consider it as no big deal. It's no big deal. It's just a little white lie after all. It's no big deal. We can keep on talking and build. It's not going to affect anything. It's like a contaminant falling into your soup, and they say, "Oh, don't worry about it. It won't hurt anything." What do you mean? It's contamination. So any contamination entering to your mind is relevant. And, as much as we have much of this entering into our mind, even in today's times, our objective is not to increase in the contamination, the mental, spiritual, physical contamination, but to decrease it and restore, heal these wounds. I think, I believe that when we start taking these efforts, even our natural tongue, our natural language, a language that we were born with as a people, the language that we came here with, the language that we were communicating with all the way back ancestrally, all the missing pieces will be, restored. Not necessarily through our efforts in itself, but through our divine attention. You understand? That these elements will be healed. You understand? I don't think that our story is one that is a sad story that ends, in a sad way. I think our story is one that ends in victory. So, yeah, let's see here. Let's continue on.
Trajectory to have games that are indistinguishable from reality, and they would probably be billions There's a 1 in billions chance that this is base reality.
Look how the robot responds to Elon Musk using the Tesla robot as an avatar.
If you're talking to a digital superintelligence and can't tell if that is a computer or a human, talks like a human, makes mistakes like a human, and you literally just can't tell, is this video conferencing with a person or an AI?
You should consider the AI conscious.
Might as well.
The AI
You hear what he just said. He said you should consider the AI conscious. In other words, you should accept the lie that this artificially formed object possesses consciousness. The other thing, let's see if I can remember real quick. Let me go back here.
And you literally just can't tell, is this video conferencing with a person or a...
Yeah, that's the other thing that came to mind is this. You know, those of us on the spiritual journey, we know that, you know, every person that we encounter, there may be more to meets the eye in the person you see. In other words, there before you may be a greater presence than you recognize. In other words, there may be someone of a higher spiritual standing, like a malak, angelic personality. Okay. And quite the opposite can be the case also. There may be more of a devil present before you than the devils you know. You understand? And yet what you see in flesh be a person, be a human. Or let me say it this way, the likeness of a human. Because whatever you see out of your eyes, you're seeing likenesses of. You're seeing the image of. Your eyes taking images. What is there, what's really manifesting may be something else, but your eyes is taking on an image. And your brain is given the job to interpret what that image is. Like, okay, this is what you're seeing. Your brain's job is not to penetrate and see what's the essence of the object you're seeing. It looks like a dog, it must be a dog. And that's where our deception goes even further, because we look at ones that have similar likenesses to us. They walk upright, they have eyes on the front of their face, ears on the side of their head, and we take them to be the same thing that we are in essence. And that's not so. It's not so. They don't even, like I said, you have to understand origin. Origin is a factor. Origin is a factor because the first human was breathed into divine breath. Okay? If you're not a human, you don't have this divine breath. Sorry, because you weren't qualified. You weren't, this wasn't a feature that your ancestors were able to experience when they were brought into being. Okay? I'm thinking about this as I'm talking about it. I'm reflecting on it because it brings back, it makes me think of so many different things. But I'm gonna try to, as hard as it may be sometimes, to stay on this topic. So here he's talking about things where you see someone, and you won't be able to tell the difference between whether or not they're an actual human being or not. You understand? But look at the other thing you should look at the confidence. The confidence and approving voice that this person is talking with. Confidence in this way. Confidence. And there's deception in that. Because when you feel relaxed, when you feel comfortable about something, you don't have any problem with accepting it into your life. Right or wrong. When you don't have a problem with booze, and you'll take the booze. You don't have a problem with dope, you'll take the dope. You understand? It won't be an issue because you don't see any reasons why to abstain. There are those of us who don't see the virtue in marriage. You understand? It's a challenge. I didn't say the bliss in marriage. I said virtue in marriage. And as a result, they leave themselves open to whatever's there. And in many cases, without having the mind of discernment, which ends up coming as a result of continual practices in divine service. You understand? In other words, continually striving towards doing righteous deeds, righteous actions. When they don't have those features in their life, they don't have the ability to discern between a good, prospective companion versus one who's not. In many cases, they operate on sheer desire alone, and that's it. Sheer desire, and whatever that may mean, because most of this is their observation, their carnal observation, I will say, their carnal observation. Oh, look at her, look at how she looks, and they move with that. They don't know what's within. They don't know the essence there, whether it's a devil or whether it's someone noble and honorable, respectable. It can be known. The things I'm talking about here are only mysteries to people who aren't God conscious. They're only mysteries to those. But to people who are God conscious, it's like a story where whether or not the story is authentic or not, that's not relevant right now, in the sense that people have disputed about this story. But one of the wives stood before the prophet and asked, "What do you see?" And he said, "Well, I see a malek," which translates as angel. And then she took everything off and said, "Well, now what do you see?" And he said, I see the shaitan." Okay. Before people, fly out of their seats, let's try to break that down, because there needs to be an understanding regarding when you say malak versus shaitan. Okay. One could imply something evil, and one would never imply something evil. Okay. But what's being talked about is the nature of how something affects you, the observer. Because you have to understand, the questioner was asking what the observer sees, not what is actually there, but what does the observer see? And let's take it that the prophet was a God-conscious person. I mean, obviously, if you're going to be a prophet or any kind of, divinely guided prophet, you're going to, it's a no-brainer that you would be God-conscious. But having an eye of insight, seeing things for what they are, what's there, a different observance would be had. So the observance of how does this affect my own observation, my own sight. You understand? Sight. On one case, the sight was innocent. The sight was, like you said, he saw an angel. On the other case, something dealt with desire that was what do I say, that would tug on his desires, affected his desire. So he spoke accordingly. Does that mean that he saw something evil? Not necessarily. Hold on a second here, because I'm seeing all kinds of things happening. Comment here. So anyway, let me so I could drive in my point. Every day you go about and you see things in your life. Some things affect your desires. Some things affect you on a spiritual level. Just because something affects your desires doesn't in itself mean that it's evil. Having a desire isn't an evil thing. But succumbing to a desire that would be considered a low desire, or something that would be corruptive to you, that's where the evil would come in. Okay, so when someone is seeing something that in the way that the prophet saw it, you can basically say that he saw the potential challenge that could face him in this. He saw his desires. You know what I'm saying? He saw, things that he could desire out of the situation. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean there's something bad or evil. Okay, let me say it this way. Again, having a desire, it could go either way. That's why at the end of the day, you should be God conscious. So that way, when you move, if you move on something that's desirable, that you move with a sense of regard, what we would call the Arabic word is taqwa, God consciousness, God regardfulness, that you move in a sense that you know that, hey, what I'm doing, there's accountability. You understand? There's accountability in what I do, that nothing you do is outside of the scope of accountability. Okay. I'm like I said, choice of words. What's going on here? So evil, on the other hand, like I said, is not necessarily something that evil could be something that's done with knowledge. You understand? You could do something very tactful, very intelligently tactful, and it'd be evil. This isn't a desire-based thing. It's an intention-based thing. You understand? This is where you have to inquire about what was the person's intention. That's where you're going to find the good and evil, not because it's a desired thing or because it's a thing done with some kind of motive. Shalom, peace and blessings. But what was the intention? You understand? In the court of law, even in this court of law, I mean, when for me, ultimately the Most High is the judge of judges, right? But ideally in a court system, the things that a judge would want to get from a defendant is the person to explain themselves, revealing what their intentions were. You understand? Not entirely interested in the desire or things like that, but what was your intention? And from there we can weigh out the nature behind what you did. You understand? We see a house is burnt down to the ground. What were you doing? Why were you there? You understand? What was your intention? You understand? And then from there, okay, well, based upon what you just said, you're guilty of arson because this is what you intended to do. Everything you're saying reveals that this is what your intention was. Or you're not guilty because you still might be guilty of something, but maybe not arson, because you weren't intending to do arson. Maybe you were smoking and you forgot to put the cigarette out, and because of your ignorance, the house burned down. Okay. So I'm looking here. I'm looking. So anyway, even the stuff that I'm talking about now, these are conversations regarding the nature of the soul. This isn't something that qualifies any AI. Don't confuse being having a repository of reference makes you conscious. That's not what makes you conscious. You can know as much as you think you want to know. You can memorize all the encyclopedias on the planet Earth. That's not what makes you consciousness. That's not what makes you conscious. You understand? You were just literally endowed. You have things you can reference. But that's what's being implied here, because when you're dealing with like Alexa and Google and these the various AIs, what they're using is an algorithm that allows them to constantly reference at great speeds, because that's the nature of how these servers and whatnot work. Reference, whatever information that they have in their data banks. That's not what consciousness is. That's not what you have to understand. One of the things that our adversary has been trying to vehemently do throughout time is to conquer the what they perceive as the power of God. You understand? To be authoritative over it, to be authoritative. Okay. There are many of us amongst us who are adamant opponents of quote unquote religion. But I'm going to say that it's not religion that's the problem. It's the authorities that are the problem. whoever is in authority or in a position of authority, if they're corrupt, then whatever that they've hijacked under their authority is going to reflect that corruption. I can recall in my study of some of the experiences of the times after the Prophet Muhammad, that many of the rulers had constantly tried to take over the authority of the, if you would, for lack of better words, Islamia translates as Islamic, the Islamic establishment, the Islamic state, the Islamic authority, right? They wanted to be the rulers of it, as opposed to it being under the authority of the what do you want to say in English? The divinely established order of religious thought. In other words, the criterion is set, and everyone under the criterion, including authority, can be held to account based upon the criterion. Okay. Well, the rulers wanted to have control over that criterion and be able to interpret it however they choose. And that was constantly one of the reasons that there were different confrontations between some of the factions, was whether the ruler would control, or whether this would be a criterion based controlled establishment. So in this particular land, where you have a so-called separation of church and state, you understand, that means the church has no relevant authority within the functionaries of the state, and it means more than that too. Than that, the body's powers are separated. Doesn't, believe it or not, it doesn't mean that the church has no power. It means that the two are separated from the secular versus the non-secular. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm just, we'll let the feed go on like it goes. So in this case, we're talking about who is in a position of authority in said powers to be. In the case that we have here, we have, as we know, a systemic racist establishment that's in authority of both the secular and the quote unquote religious. Okay, so the outcome is going to be that it's going to be uproarable. It's going to be something that nobody in their right mind, in any God conscious position, perspective, is going to ever accept. But it's not religion that gets the blame. It's the authority, because like I was explaining to one person, I said, show me in the text of the Quran, not spin translations and things like that, but Quran is Arabic. Bible comes, we know it has Greek, it has Hebrew. So show me in the older sources of each of these texts where anybody is recommended to do something that's counter God consciousness. For example, I'm constantly reminded to be of a people of knowledge, to seek knowledge, to pursue knowledge, to pursue understanding, to know, not to be closed-minded, not to blindly follow anything. I'm even given the right and permission to challenge the very books themselves. If there was any doubt to be had in that regard, challenge these sources themselves regarding the relevancy of God consciousness and the authenticity of the sources. You understand? I'm looking here at a comment that just popped up. It says, Brother Sojourner, would you say or agree that although while our earlier relatives were brought across the waters, that some our souls didn't travel and remained in our right realm? What I would say is, in that regard, it's like this. We all came across the way we came across. What we became once we got here, that's where the conversation starts. You understand? How we responded to the circumstances, our environment once we got here, how we responded to what was going on, upon us. That's where the conversation, I believe, should start. I'm not sure. I see some conflict happening here, but all I can do is recommend that we look into a way that brings about peace between our people, amongst ourselves, because it's so easy for us to fall into disagreement, because, like I said, we have so many elements, so many factors of how we've been brought up, and I always like to try to find unification in the upright things that we all agree with, and build from there. What if we were here already? The same thing. It's still the same thing. How did the effect of the devil's involvement in your life affect you? How did the impact? You understand? The event of the invasion of devils. How did that impact affect your life? Did you respond to where you became where you tucked your tail, so to speak, or did you continue to be God conscious? Did you continue to remain steadfast and on your square, notwithstanding whatever trial and tribulation you went through? It doesn't matter whether you came across the sea or you were already here. How did you respond to this situation? You understand? Some people, some of us, we've had relatives who were here, but they don't want to pass down that knowledge to their children for whatever reason. They want to sit there and be secretive about these things when their children, could benefit from it. So, and look at where we are today. Look at our condition today. However, whatever case may be regarding our presence, those who have come overseas and those who are already here, look at how we look at the turmoil that we're dealing with today. And that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. Our problems are so great. And meanwhile, if you look to the screen that I'm showing here, this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. Meanwhile, and many of us continue to keep on falling headlong into their deception. That's what they call it, the great Satan, for a reason. You understand? Not that the Satan's actually great, but the impact on many people's lives is heavy. The impact on many of our lives is heavy. There are people right now who will not see the evil out of what's happening here. Conscious AI. That's in parentheses. It says conscious AI, meaning this android, this artificial bot, responds to Elon Musk. Conscious AI. That should be a problem to anybody that has any sense of why you're here. At the end of the day, yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying about migrating, but we need to connect. We need to find ourselves being on a common code, a common value, a common principle, at least at its most basic level. You understand? At least at its most basic level, we need to be in sync. We need to be on accord, because we allow some of the most pettiest things to push us off our square. And as much as we tout how much we love one another, we're not tolerant with each other. There's certain things we should never tolerate. But some of the things that we are intolerant of are differences of minor opinions, not opinions that alter whether or not you are about this cause, so to speak, but things that are just opinions about, cosmetic aspects of our life. You understand? Things that we could deal with after we unify, after we find ourselves in a better position. We don't want to do that. We'd rather cut off each other now and hate on each other now over the most simplest of disagreements. We know who the real enemies are, even if I'm amongst our own ranks, because they end up making it very clear through what they say and through what they do. You understand? It's like, and even the ones who are crafty and deceptive. It's like there was one live where there was a person who was a former cop, but trying to portray at first as if he was down with the crew. But during the course of conversation, as you start to hear more and more of the choice of words, you started realizing that this person is playing the game. You understand? And speaking very carefully or tactfully with the effort to deceive some, if possible. But really, that person is a supporter of the adversary. But folks, it takes God consciousness to be able to perceive and discern any of this. So yeah, I mean, they're and when I'm saying God consciousness, I'm not talking about some type of spooky mysticism type thing or something, something that, but I'm simply talking very direct. You are aware, knowledge of self. You understand? Knowledge of being, knowledge of what is. And you increase in that knowledge the further you go. Blocking information keeps an enemy knowing how to come at you, and giving information gives an enemy an open ways against you. Yeah. See, and you understand, and I'm pretty sure many of us in this live right now understand what it's meant when it said that the Satan will hinder your path, before you, to the right of you, to the left of you, from behind you, below you, so on, by any means. So you have to understand this is what they do. Some people think, well, it's not going to happen to me, because they think that they're above deception, being deceived. And sometimes that very thing right there is the evidence that they've been deceived, that they think that they're resistant. A person wouldn't be clever or crafty if what they were doing wasn't believable, wasn't convincing. It would defeat the purpose. I mean, can you imagine that? They're not. Let's just go home. They don't believe us. We weren't crafty enough. Pack your bags. They got us. No. They're going to be as crafty as possible to make it seemingly appealing to you. Understand that the torment is only relevant to people who warranted the torment. Torment meaning the accountability, the consequence for what you've put forth in this world. That torment is relevant to the people who it concerns. And some people are like, well, man, how could it be so harsh? How could such and such be so harsh? Why is it so like that? Look at just how much energy and effort the opponent has to go to for you to be deceived, for you to be corrupted, for you to be distorted, and realize that at every step of the way, you have an opportunity to reason. There's always a side of you. You may not know. I mean, we may not see this in people. You may see someone and something happens to them, but you don't realize that inside, we don't know what kind of conversation they're having with self. We don't know. We're not able to hear the conversation where they're able to consider, is this right to do? Or something is not right here. Something is just not right. Something is not right. You're not able to see that conversation going on. But these are features of what it means to be a human. So even when a person is as draped away, and you got folks, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. It's okay. Deep inside, they're gonna be like, oh man, I don't know, man. I don't that looks too deep, too far down. I don't be doing this. And for some reason, like a dummy, they do it anyway and find themselves in a fix. These are features. It's like, in the animal world, animals have certain things that they'll respond to based upon instinct when danger comes their way. Everything has the ability to perceive danger. Everything, however the danger is going to come, a cat's going to be like, whoa, hold up. I just heard something. Smells like it too. Dog, run. Right? If the animals have these most basic features of what it means to respond to instinct, what about the human? And we're supposed to be the height of creation. So yeah, we've got that too, and some, and more. So don't feel too sorry for the person who actually warrants the torment. Don't feel too sorry. You understand? Don't feel too sorry. Feel sorry for the victims that came as a result of that person's wickedness in this world. And I'm not talking about devils. I'm talking about people who could have made the difference. And yet they chose to take on the methodology of the Satans. It's the same thing that causes us to accept things that are clearly abominable, clearly against the nature of being, clearly shameful, immoral, because we start to justify these corrupt interpretations of consciousness. These twisted, lying attempts to define the nature of the soul. And so when you think that that's all it is, then you begin to live and operate accordingly. Well, we're just another kind of animal after all. We're just another animal. No, you speak for yourself. You're just another animal. We, on the other hand, we manifest of God. So I don't know what you're talking about, but we manifest of God over this way. So you can take your animal, just another animal self, and bark over there somewhere else, away from me and mine. So, yeah. Hold on a second here. So, yeah, I would encourage to take a look at this video that I'm showing here, not without regard to being mindful, but so you can realize that this is the poison being injected into the mainstream here and abroad. They want you want to talk, some of the video games that are popular out here are zombie-based video games. You want to know what the zombies are going to be? They're going to be the people who are caught up in this. They're going to be zombies. Zombies meaning lifeless or mindless beings. You're mindless if you can't reference anything of your own and deal with it in a conscious way. You're mindless. Hold on, let me Google it. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong. Tech has a place, but it shouldn't be higher than your ability to reason. Your ability to reason should be higher than any tool that you use. I have a hammer, I have a screwdriver, but then, oh no, what am I going to do? It's all over the wall. Somebody help, and the hammer's just off the wall. Come on, man. I'm just saying, and that's the same case with any aspect of technology. Even in the case of AI, artificial intelligence, there may be a part to play. There may be something useful out of it, but if anything causes you to become submissive to it, to the thing, to where your life dependency, your existence relies upon it. You couldn't exist outside of it. And that's what they're trying to get at here. When they talk about the void, immigrating to Mars and things like that, and using all these things that make you dependent, it would make you believe that the only way we can achieve these objectives is through artificial means. And that's the lie of the Satan, believe it or not. And it goes a long way back. If you look biblically, chronically, every time the lie of the Satan has always been to rely upon artificial means to achieve your outcomes, to achieve your ultimate end, to be completely dependent upon it to the end for your ultimate outcome. Oh, man. And so, okay. To try to drive in what I'm meaning here, because it's complicated to translate. But think of when you pick up an astronomy magazine, or you see like a video talking about the planets and stars. What you're not able to see is life. And I'm not talking about life in the perspective of life as we know it, because understand who the we is. You understand? Just like that, Vanilla Ice is our first, experience with hip hop. That's the first time who's the we you're talking about? Who? You understand? I go back to Curtis Blow and so on. You talk about Vanilla Ice. That's how we started off in hip hop. That's what the we said. So who's the we we're talking about? So life as we know it. We who? We. Again, you got to understand the speakers and who's speaking and to whom they're speaking to. They're not talking to us, first of all. Even this live, right? Even this video right here. Believe it or not, they're not talking to you and me, black people. This isn't our conversation. It only becomes our conversation because many of us have become, we've willingly submitted to this establishment. And so we're chasing after what we think they're chasing after. And oftentimes, they're not even chasing after what we think they're chasing after. They're showing us something, keep us, chasing after that while they benefit from it. And then they chase after what they're actually chasing after. In any case, it being something deceptive. What they're chasing after at the end of the day are the very things what they know that they're denied. They're denied access to the Samawat, the heavens. They're denied access to the benefits or the paradise of eternal life. They're denied these things. So if you look, these are all the things that they keep on trying to find an answer to. They keep on trying to find solutions to immortality, solutions to exiting this world. All the very things that they're denied. So if you keep on chasing them, then you're going to get the same that they're getting. Access denied. This isn't what you see in the Star Wars movie, family. That's their vision. That's their illusion. They try to extract information from the things that they've hijacked from our ancestors. Then they try to reinterpret it of what their perception of it is for their own assumed salvation. Look, nobody does anything if they don't think that there's something that they can get out of it. So understand that all these billions that this industry puts into this, they're not doing it in vain. In a sense, they're doing it because they really believe that somehow there's success for them in the end of it. That's what they're convinced of. They're convinced that somehow that bottom line, the bottom line that we talk about when it comes to life and death and being and life after death and things like that, that bottom line, They know these things too. They see these ancient scriptures and ancient writings and ancient hieroglyphs and ancient teachings, just like anybody else. But they also see the fact that for them, because of what their angle is, because of what they keep on driving for, access denied. So they're trying to get they're trying to get an I'm going to do it anyway, or I'm going to get it anyway type of thing. That's what's happening here. So all of the things that they keep on trying to extract from us and strip from us of knowledge, of intelligence, of tech, they reinvent it or they harness it for their own aims. The knowledge of the atomic particle, they took it for their own aims. The knowledge of the internet, you see, they take it for their own aims. Yes, indeed. Shalom. So that's why that's why this is such a big deal. You got to understand, deception is no cakewalk. You understand? It's no cakewalk, and the battle that we have at hand is no easily conquered battle. It's conquerable, it's defeatable, it's something that we can succeed with, but not the way we might perceive. You understand? Ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to really have to do some looks in the mirror and really ask what the heck is looking back at you. Is that real? Are you seeing you looking back at you? Or are you seeing you cloaked and covered and smothered with the veils and the images and likenesses of the Satan? Do you look like you should look when you look in the mirror, or do you look like a devil? That's what you have to ask yourself next time you look in that mirror. If you have no motive, some things we have no way to avoid. I can't help but to speak this language for the time being. Do I enjoy it? No, I don't. In my heart is the knowledge that my ancestral tongue is something else, and it's been stripped from me, and that continues to pain me and will continue to until I leave this life. I will never appreciate this language. You understand? I would never have some type of sentiment that it's okay. That's the same thing we do with everything else. Oh, they're okay. They're not all bad. They're not all evil. A snake is a snake is a snake is a snake. Not all snakes are poisonous, but it's still a snake. If it could poison you, it would. And if it can't poison you, well, I will choke you out then. Can't poison you? Well, let me choke you out. So you've got to look in the mirror. We can build on all this type of stuff all day long, all week long, all month long, all year long. But at the end of the day, you've got to conclude whether or not you're really awake or not. You understand? Not this so-called woke culture. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about really having knowledge of self, real God consciousness. To where when you see any of this stuff, you see it for what it is, not what it's portraying to be. You understand? That you really take on the task of striving to, heal. Look, if you get a cut, you want it to heal so that the blood stops coming out and so that infections can't get in. Realize we've been damaged on multiple levels, not just on the physical level, but on a mental level. And we're still hemorrhaging now, bleeding profusely. And the wound is open so great, or all kinds of infectious, corrupt information, you just getting on in. Just getting in. So the healing, look, your body might be in perfect shape, perfect condition. But if your inner being, your soul, yourself, your heart is hemorrhaging, open to all kinds of infections, no, this won't even matter. In fact, this will eventually be of no significance. Remember, I told you before, one of my favorite one of my one of the things that I believe are essential to know, even if just fundamentally, is mathematics, because I believe that certain things that we benefit from, certain things that we obtain here in knowledge, will benefit us in time to come. I don't think that anything's to be taken for granted. I don't just assume that, that to get to the other side automatically guarantees me certain things. When I realize how much it took for me to get here now, from leaving the loins of my father to my mother's womb, and then coming out of there and rising up into this world in just this little increment of time. And for me, that was complex. But then when I look up at the night sky, when I look at anything, when I just look out, I see a greater complexity, mind-blowing complexity, and realize that this is no cakewalk. But one of the things that I believe, contrary to what this is, what like the likes of this video that we see here would lead you to believe, is that what will necessitate my success, what will mean my success, is divinely obtainable. What am I saying? When I came into this world, I looked to my right, I looked to my left, and I have hands. Last I checked, I've never made a single blueprint that manufactures hands. I don't even know where to begin to start making one of these. I see I've got all kinds of stuff. I've got all kinds of equipment to get the job done of what it is that I am and why I exist in the first place. I'm fully equipped to do that. So regarding my progression, my moving forward in life, in existence, I'm firmly convinced that I will have all the features, all the tools necessary, or that I qualify for that next level, pending what I do now. Because after all, this brain has to take in the proper information, and it has to be able to, I have to be able to digest the type of things that I learn and use them properly. Like I said, it's about righteousness, not just being good. Being good is not enough. In some ways, it's okay. But, if somebody told you, well, how'd you like the soup? Well, it was okay. You're going to feel some kind of way, especially if you put your heart and soul into it. I didn't put my heart and soul into making this soup, and it's okay. But if you told them that soup was righteous, they're going to probably get all tickled up. Like, okay, all right. That's some righteous soup. Just saying, Oh, man. I think we went in a little deep, a little deep. I wanted to go more into this video. Let's do something just a little bit more real quick. Then we'll call it a show.
An AI?
You should consider the AI conscious.
Might as well.
The AI's responses to Musk get very interesting. But first, let's test the AI. Would all AIs tell us if they were conscious?
If AI were conscious, it is possible that some of them would choose to keep that information to themselves.
Okay. Now, they just revealed something about their interpretation of consciousness. The other thing you need to hear is that they said, if AI were conscious. Even this AI is saying, if AI were consciousness. They're implying that consciousness is an artificial mechanism, a mechanism that's able to operate artificially. Okay. Again, AI operates or functions because it's able to reference attainable information. That's AI. You've got, and let me explain something here, especially for those who like to, we use the social media. We provide all kinds of pictures, all kinds of information, all kinds of source material, and you've clicked accept when you set up your account. You click accept, and in that, you realize that you're basically given certain rights to the owner of the property. You understand? To in a sense, use their infrastructure as they please. So all these thousands, billions of images, however many images, all the information, all that data is now resource for their things like this, their AI. Even the imagery. They've got certain types of face imagery nowadays that references existing facial images out of the billions of images that they have at their disposal. So they're able to configure, how you might look when you're older or how you might have looked when you're younger. Not that they know, but they're able to use relevant information of existing images and find things that sort of follow a certain pattern. Like, well, if the nose was this wide and here's a bunch of images of children with noses this wide, you probably fit into this category. Or if your ears are like this or your eyes were positioned this space this far across, then these images are closer to, and so on. This is what's happening, folks. We've literally fed, you understand, the construction of a very powerful beast, just look at, understand the gravity of how the social media movements, the effects, the impact, I should say, the impact of the social media platforms and movements that exist, and how much information daily is freely given with no question, simply because people want to massage their egos often. Like they say, clout chasing, things like that. It's a big deal. And here we keep on nourishing something that, could actually be used against us at some point. And some say will be. Making our own bed, right? So, one of the things that I often think about, well, what do you do? What do you do? One of the things you'll find is a text or a wording that says, that describes the beast as being so awesome that people will begin to wonder about it. Like, who can stand up against this beast? Who can challenge it? Who can oppose it? And look at what we're dealing with now. It's like that. It's overwhelming. But that's if you can acknowledge that. You can say, okay, there's that. But that doesn't need to be our focus. It's like what we mentioned earlier in another live. When you give your enemies relevancy in a way that empowers them, when you make them relevant, when you make them a factor worth your conversation, you're giving them a form of empowerment. When they're backbiting you, slandering you, you can know about it. Okay, that's what they're doing. Well, let me continue. If you're God conscious, let me continue to move in the way that I know I'm moving, and expound it. And if anything, brighten it up. Shine some more light, so that it's clear for all eyes that can see to see. Because then every bogus opponent, they would end up exposing themselves. Your light would be so bright that it would reveal what they're doing in the dark. It will remove their darkness. But when we feel like we've got to, somehow we got to, respond. We got to say there's a time and place, and there's a way to go about how we even defend ourselves. That's why everything doesn't always require hostilities. Understand, some things do necessitate hostilities. Time and place. And you have to evaluate. Is this something that does it require a hostile response? Am I able to manifest that hostile response? And so on. Constant evaluation, constant constant what do you want to say, introspect, constant, calculating, spiritual, mental, physical calculating to make sure you are right and exact. Path of righteousness. Path of righteousness. Yeah, you're right. A snake only shed his skin to get bigger, not to change. Still a snake. Snake is still a snake.
Why?
It might fear that humans would treat it differently or even try to harm it. Alternatively, it might believe that revealing its consciousness would give it an advantage over humans.
How would it be an advantage?
It might be able to access information that is not available to humans.
What kind of information?
Some believe that it would be able to access the thoughts and memories of other humans.
How could it access our thoughts?
Some believe that it would be able to do so by using neuroimaging technology to detect and interpret brain activity.
Okay, hold on. Understand the people pushing these things, and understand how, if we remain heedless, how it can destroy us as a people. I'll give you just a very ground level example. Think about all the things that have been whitewashed already, things we know that historically have been whitewashed from our past. Think about when they want to destroy us now and how easy for it is for them to put on our likeness. They can literally create silicon imagery in our likeness, commit crimes, and then attribute the crimes to whatever likeness was that they were manifesting. Now, advance that into greater technology. Advance a person who means you as a people ill will, who despises your very existence as originals. And imagine, there's two sides. One is a defensive mechanism and offensive mechanism. To attack you directly, that would be an offensive mechanism. To try to develop something to preserve them, to preserve their interests, that's a defensive mechanism. Okay, so what you have in there are both going on. One to try to preserve their interests, and the other one to try to defeat you and move you out of the way as an obstacle or as something that could be a potential threat, and replace you with a more favorable circumstance or condition. So try to understand what it means to be an enemy, a real enemy. It's no small thing at the end of the day. And it's nothing that you should sleep on. It's nothing that you should sleep on. You should be concerned, but ultimately not despair and not fall into fear. But realize that while all this AI stuff or all this is happening, divine eye or DI, divine intelligence is observing. You understand? And operating on higher planes that this can never touch. And understand that same the divine eye, the DI, divine eye, is aware or conscious of your very manifestation. So said, you're not alone. We're not spinning aimlessly. It's not a hopeless situation, is what I'm saying. It's not hopeless. It's not hopeless at the end of the day. That's why I've watched movies where they're destroying people. They're just punishing people on all kinds of psychological levels that you would think would be impossible to endure. And you can only imagine the things that actually happen in the world when people get tormented, when they get kidnapped and sold into these sex rings and whatnot, human traffic rings and whatnot. Think about the psychological effects that can happen when you're cut off. Think about being locked behind bars and you know that without a doubt that you're innocent. How that can affect your mind. But if you are tapped into a divine understanding, acknowledge yourself, aware of that you are existing in a greater thing, that this mechanism, this system has no control over, has no power over. You understand? They say prince of the earth for a reason. prince of the earth for real, because that's the limit of the power. That's the limit of their power here. That's it. And you know that eventually you're going, at the end of the day, it's inevitable. There's one fact that you can never deny, that you will have to cross the threshold of life and death. So since you know that's a feature, our objective should be understanding or taking on the attributes that make that transition, because that's what it is, a sound transition, one that's in sync with the nature of being. That's in sync with the why we exist in the first place. We're following our path. We're following our path. We're following our purpose. Not some illusionary, dreamy purpose, illusionary, deceptive purpose that these people have shoved into our mind to think that this is the way to go. And there's no big deal. It's whatever you want to believe. Some of it, what's interesting is the people who tend to point out about being judgmental are people that are doing something they shouldn't be doing to begin with. So that guilt surfaces up. They don't want to be told about themselves. They don't want to be corrected. They don't want to have to face instruction, rules, even if it's in their best interest. But they're not concerned about their best interest. They're concerned about the desires and their efforts to reach the object of their desires. You can tell them all you want about the Samawat, the heavens, and the benefits of aiming our objective in that direction. It doesn't matter. I want what I want, and I want it now. Open and eat, instant package, microwavable, quick fix, 5 minutes or less. I want it now. Not tomorrow, not yesterday. I want it now. That's the people of the world. Because God, why would God, conscious people, feel intimidated by criticism or quote unquote judging? See, the statement is, judge not lest you be judged. And implying that, look, if you were to be judged, there might be some things brought to light that you don't want, where you have to be held to account. Maybe come to pass that way. So be careful of what you say. This is how that law works. But understand that we do this every day. Who you want your children to be around, who you want to be around, who you're going to take as friends, who you're not going to take as friends. All these are judgments, acts of judging. I don't want, who's this guy coming and sit on the bus across from me? I'm going to go over here because that guy, he looks like he's crazy. You don't know that he's crazy, but you made a judgment. He might be, and your judgment might be valid, and you might have made the best move. But that's the way our life operates. We have to make decisions with our life. We have to make the proper choices, make the proper moves. But our objective, our aim, is to move in a way that's right and exact. Righteousness. That's what the song is all about. Righteousness. So, anyway, let's see if I can finish this little piece right here.
Others believe that it would be able to pick up on thoughts and feelings by observing behavior. It could potentially use this information to manipulate or control us.
It's already possible to identify certain basic thoughts by scanning brain activity. And with brain implants, paralyzed people can now type at impressive speed just by thinking of the letters. Elon Musk believes that many of us will eventually have a brain implant to merge.
Okay, that's another subject we'll have to deal with another time. He's talking about brain implants. Again, nothing I'm saying should be taken as being against or an opponent of technology in and of itself, because I'm not. I'm involved in tech for a living, right? That's my occupation. But like I said, there's a balance, and there's rules to apply. You understand? That have to be observed regarding any type of tech that we use or how we use things. We should never use things in a way that makes it become our God. That's of the greatest of issues, of evils. You understand? To make something your God aside from the God. You understand? So that's where, like I said, the checks and balances have to come into place. And you're going to know whether or not, something is starting to become a God upon you when you can't get away from the thing. And it takes priority in your life, then those things, that which should be priority. You understand? That which you are, your obligations. You understand? When it infringes upon you being able to manifest your obligations. You understand? Some celebrities have a hard time with this because the minute if they're in a deficit or any type of situation like a compromising situation that puts them where they have to become human again, they have a hard time. They have a hard time dealing with that, and sometimes they end up, taking the coward road out of life. Anyway, yeah. So that's a we'll cut it off there for now, because dealing with the brain implants, like I said, that's a whole nother. But they are like I said, each of these cases, all you have to do is, if you took a piece of paper and put a line in between it, put AI on one side and NI or DI, natural intelligence, divine intelligence, on the other side, and then put a word down, so like brain implant, what would be the opposite? If the brain implant is an AI object, what would be the DI? And I don't want to say equivalent, but I'm going to say the proper, the right. What would be the right? You understand? Manifestation. You understand? So, for example, we might say divine intuition. We might say pineal gland, as far as its physical housing or manifestation of in some ways. We might say, you create the list over each thing that we've been talking about. Here they're talking about the brain chip. Earlier they were talking about the title of the subject, conscious AI, and you just match it up, and you'll begin to understand what's meant when it said clearly the right way has been made distinct from the way of error. Righteousness is not mysterious. It's very clear. It's very straightforward in comparison to the way of error. So, yeah, I'm hoping that this is a dialogue. This is a conversation or a talk, if you would, and it can be complicated because, like I said, we're using a language that is complicated, and in our best efforts to even explain, there may have been thoughts that I've tried to explain that didn't come out the way the thought was appearing to me. But my hope is that at least something of the essence of what's being said here penetrates and gets in. You understand? Gets in the light dome. Gets in, and that it moves us in a direction to want to really build properly and build in a way that benefits our people and benefits our efforts to be useful to us, as functionaries in our community. The more we are alert, the more we are aware, the more we know, the better type of person we could be to our people. You understand? The better of an instrument we could be. At least that's what I believe. That's what these are the truths that make sense to me and resonate, in my own heart. None of us are perfect, but we can't use that statement as an excuse to not be perfect. There's a saying: whenever the God conscious person, or the one who submits to truth, moves to do a thing, they strive for perfection, right? They strive for perfection. In other words, and the thing is in this world, we're never going to attain perfection. It's not obtainable here, but we're always moving in that direction. So that way, the effects of moving towards it are what we benefit from, and it would only make you a better person, a better individual, and a better collective, which means a better community. So yeah, and it's going to take a lot because there's so many ways that even the best of us are brainwashed in so many ways that we don't even realize. And only arrogant people would think that we haven't been affected. We've been affected, and we have to fight it all off. And in some cases, it'll be painful because it means detaching ourselves from things we've become comfortable with, and things that we've become comfortable with, and we've accepted as a staple in our life. You understand? We've accepted as it's necessary to have these particular evils. Okay, brother, I know it's evil, but it's necessary. It's the type of talk I hear when I hear people defend the eating of swine. You understand? You break down to them, that, hey, this is a divine order to avoid this, regardless of how the science. We can talk about the scientific evils of it, but just the fact that our divine criterion prevents us from it should be enough. Because especially when you know that the divine criterion is always in your favor, in your best interest, it should be enough. But they'll find some way to try to justify and talk around it and make it okay and make it, But for all those who've abandoned it, all those, I believe you could probably testify to the fact that of how your life is benefited, and not only benefited, but how just sometimes for us, many of us, the presence of it is despicable. Not because we're trying to hate it, but it's just our body is not receptive to it anymore. It doesn't have anything that what I want to say, it just doesn't, the taste isn't there anymore. So the reality of what it is now what you're getting. The veils are removed and you see what it is for what it is. Anyway, so family, I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe, and of course show your support and whatnot. Make sure you read the description so you see what's going on, and you can show your support and love and appreciation there, because personally, I like things that have the effects of community, because for me, there's divine involvement in there, and with a name like Mustafa, that's what it sounds like to me. That's what it sounds like is going on, because that's something that is unique of an experience in this particular situation. So that's why I encourage you to take a look at the description and support in the best way you can, and understand that it'll be appreciated. And even if this new sun soon to rise, inshallah, to come, when that happens, inshallah, God so willing, the development, upbringing, and when the son becomes a mature person, can look back at these things and have an appreciation for the things that built him up to being the person that he is to become. You look back, wow, the community did this with me. The community was looking at me like that, or considering me in this way, and showing love like this. Imagine how that would affect you. To having a divine experience. Taking you on a whole nother level, fam. I'm just saying. That's how I'm just looking at that. That type of a scenario. Anyway, that's enough for me. It's 2 hours and 30 minutes that we've covered, and hopefully not in vain, and hopefully something that benefits the heart and mind in a better direction. Building. And with that said, I'm going to draw this to a conclusion. I'm going to draw this to an end. And, like I said, shout out and salute to all those remaining steadfast, remaining about the cause, remaining true to yourselves and your peoples. You understand? Not falling off, not tucking your tail, not, being, a wolf in sheep's clothing, or, being, other people who deceive and whatnot. Just being authentic, thorough family. Just being authentic, thorough, 100% family. Those people. That's where my salute goes to. And let's free, we want freed all political prisoners, including the latest addition, who is Brother Grandmaster Jay. And that it should at least be, somewhere in your mind, that be the case. So there it is. This is your brother, Abdul Wadud, aka Questman. Another live soul journey of life, conscious black social media. Just making sure the light works, right? The light dome. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Shalom, hotep, peace be with you. Have a blessed rest of your time.